everyone, it's B, and you're listening to another episode of the In Your Feelings podcast. For those who are new here, In Your Feelings is a podcast I create with Thought Catalog that dives into the very real and very messy aspects of life that we are all navigating. I create these episodes just to have honest conversations about things like relationships and moving on and worthiness, things that can feel really disheartening and confusing, in the hopes that these 30 minutes or so make you feel less alone in what you're going through and remind you that you aren't the only person who is feeling what you're feeling right now. So this week's podcast episode is going to be based all around the things we so often feel like we have to apologize for, especially as empaths. For example, when you care deeply in a world that sometimes fails to do so, you can be made to feel like you have to apologize for how much hope your heart has, or for having real expectations from a society that seems to be focused on detachment. You can feel like you have to apologize for your heart, for the way you send it to war for people. You can feel like you have to apologize for your mind, for the way you worry, for the way it might work differently than other people's, because you're naturally just the kind of person who perceives a lot around you, or who wants to fix the things around you. There are so many ways the world can convince us that we have to approach life from a certain perspective. And there are so many ways society primes us with these relationship rules or constructs around living and healing, and how long that should take, or how we should approach our futures, or the way we seek love, or the way we care. And when you're the kind of person who wears their heart on their sleeve, who sees things differently, being surrounded and constantly experiencing those rules or those societal pressures to be a certain way can make you feel like you're wrong, or like you have to apologize for the way you exist here. And I hope this podcast reminds you to take up space in who you are, to stop apologizing for your heart and your mind and your healing. I hope it reminds you to be all that you are and to own it. So firstly, I just want to say, and this is often the first point in a lot of my podcasts, but I think it's important to affirm empathetic hearts, especially in this generation. And so I want to remind you that you don't have to apologize for the way you care, or for trying for something, for having expectations within a connection you felt deeply towards. You are human, and the way you love, and the way you hope within that love, and the way you put your heart into this world is beautiful. I know society tries to convince you that if you were just a little more detached, or a little less invested, or a little less expressive of the way you care, you'd be better off. I know society tries to convince you that having expectations for love in this generation is silly, that looking for something deep and meaningful, something pointed and real and honest and soft is idealistic, that it doesn't exist anymore in an age of apps and social media and options and hidden agendas. I know that when you love deeply, you can be made to feel like you are wrong for the way your heart beats within your chest. But you are not wrong for caring. for believing in the goodness of others, for wanting to try for something, and you are not wrong for feeling something deeply and for leaping towards that feeling. I feel like so many empaths break themselves down and blame themselves for hoping within connections. But that's not something to apologize for. What's actually wrong is the way in which we are expected to be so okay with detachment and games and almosts, that we can spend weeks and months with someone, diving into them, learning about so many aspects of their past, unknotting their memories, seeing them at their most vulnerable, getting to know them on a level that stretches beyond the surface, so much so that we start to feel deeply for them. We start to believe that we have every right to think that it could be something more, something meaningful. And then when things don't necessarily progress and our hearts are left confused or left with the weight of so much connection and so much hope and so much potential, we're told, well, you shouldn't have had any expectations, or you shouldn't care so much, or you shouldn't give so much of your heart to people. You should be more detached. You should play it cool. And so on and so on. And that can make you feel like you have to apologize for trying, for caring, for hoping, for believing. And I just want you to know that you're not wrong. You don't have to apologize for your heart. You don't have to let the world convince you that you are not allowed to want basic respect and honesty and foundation with those who come into your life and ask so much of your heart and your emotion and your time and your energy. You don't have to apologize for wanting communication, for wanting something real in this world, for trying for something that genuinely felt like it could have been a beautiful thing. You don't have to feel silly for the way you crash your heart into people. And you don't have to change yourself or cater to the disconnection. I hope you never again apologize for the way you connect. We need deep feelers in this world. We need people who choose depth over distance. We need people who make others believe in that goodness. We need hearts like yours in this world. Do not feel ashamed. Do not apologize for the way you care. You are going to find others like you, others who have feeling dripping from their fingertips, others who pour out their hearts, others who remind you of how light and beautiful connection can be, others who strive to make love their legacy. And you are going to be so damn glad that you did not let the world convince you to harden your heart, that you did not tuck it away into the core of you and hide it from the others. You are going to be so glad that you kept trying for something, because what you want is out there. It's out there. Never stop searching for it. Okay. Secondly, you don't have to apologize for your anxiety or your worry or the way your mind works. You don't have to apologize for being anxious or upset over things that others do not seem to be affected by. I know that when you deal with a mind that sometimes overthinks or overworries or overloves, you can be convinced that you just need to relax, that the things your mind leaps towards are silly, or that you have no reason at all to be feeling them. But that doesn't take away from the fact that you are feeling them, that you are anxious, that you are worried, that you are dealing with emotions. You may not not be able to immediately control. That you are dealing with a mind that sometimes just makes you feel like you are hard to love, or like you have to apologize for the way that you exist here. You don't have to desensitize yourself to that. You don't have to add further pressure and weight to your life by convincing yourself that you are broken or unworthy because your brain works differently than those around you. And I understand. I understand that society does make you feel like that. That you have probably been told to just stop overthinking. That you have probably been told to quiet your heart. That you've been told that you're just being dramatic, or that the things you stress about aren't that deep. That you've been told to just calm down, to relax, to chill out. But I need you to understand that you don't have to apologize for any of that. These thoughts are not your fault. Your anxiety is not your fault. Your worry is not your fault. It is not something you can just flay from the bone. It is not something you can just forget about or stop giving your energy to. It's not something you can just heal by saying, I shouldn't think this way. See, when someone has a broken leg, it is so easy to say, okay, we're going to approach the healing process this way and things will be better. We can see it. It is a tangible thing, rooted in fact and something physical and medicine. We can dissect the parts. We can really visualize what is wrong, and we can make an informed decision on how to move forward from there, how to make it right. But when our minds are dealing with breaks, when we have the kind of brain that has just always on a chemical and emotional level leaned towards anxiety or depression or any other mental health illness, it's difficult to see and it's difficult to fix. You can't visualize all of the moving parts. You don't know where it stems from, when it started. It's a process to learn how to control those thoughts. Not desensitize yourself to them, but rather to learn how to differentiate between reality and what your anxiety is lying to you about. It's a process to learn your triggers, to learn how to calm your worry in a way that works for you. To learn how to ensure you notice the thoughts when they arise. You notice the feelings when they creep into your bones. It is a process. And so I just want you to be gentle with yourselves. Don't vilify yourself for the way your brain works. Don't vilify yourself for the way you think. Don't vilify yourself for your mental health. Be gentle with yourself. Dealing with these thoughts, these feelings, it's difficult. It's hard. It can be really overwhelming. And others may never understand, but you just have to be in your own corner. You have to believe in your ability to work through your thoughts, work through your worry, instead of just letting the world convince you that it's invalid, that you're wrong for experiencing it. You have to be kinder to yourself. And that kind of leads me into my next point, which is you don't have to apologize for your boundaries, for the space you need, or for walking away from situations that required you to walk away from yourself. You don't have to apologize for putting yourself first, for being the kind of person who needs to choose themselves for once. I know that So many of you care so deeply and put so much of your hearts into this world. So much of your energy and your time and your hope. I know how exhausting that can be at times. I know how hard it can be to always leap towards being the person who is there for others. Being the person who fixes things, being the person who gives and gives and pours and who sometimes doesn't have that same love or energy or hope poured back into them. I know what it is like to exist in the world with a heart that people are so deeply willing to experience, but not necessarily hold or mend or nurture in the same way. I know what it is like to feel depleted because of that. To feel like people just want to warm themselves by your heart. That people just want to take advantage of it. That people just want to take advantage of your kindness, of your forgiveness, of who you are. I know what it is like. And I also know how hard it is to walk away from situations that deplete you in those ways. That's what's so confusing about it. That's what's so overwhelming. Teaching yourself how to lay down your love, how to set boundaries, how to say, this is hurting me. I know how hard it can be to walk away from situations that feel unfair or toxic. How hard it can be to set boundaries when you're also very empathetic. When you just want people to feel loved. When you just want them to feel seen. When you just want to ensure that no one is ever going to be alone. I know how hard it can be to choose yourself. How hard it can be to not feel like you're abandoning human beings when you need to set boundaries. But this is what I have learned. When you do not honor your boundaries, when you do not create them in order to protect yourself from emotional exhaustion and being taken advantage of by those who cannot value you or from those who will only ever take from you, you're actually abandoning yourself. It's like you're lighting yourself on fire just to keep someone else warm. It's not being kind to yourself. It's not respecting yourself or defending your heart in a healthy, secure way. It's not sustainable. I promise it's not sustainable. And so this is my reminder to you that you don't have to apologize for taking care of yourself. You can be empathetic and still take care of your heart. You can care deeply and still set boundaries within that love. You can stand up for yourself. You can walk away from toxic situations. You can walk away from toxic relationships and friendships and circumstances that are hurting you. You don't have to stand by and let them weather you. You can walk away with grace. You can choose yourself for once. You can choose your heart for once. You can give yourself the love and the energy and the hope you so freely and so beautifully give to others, and you can be there for yourself. That is a strength, not a weakness. I know it sounds cliche, but you cannot pour from an empty cup. You have to create boundaries. You have to be honest about how the people and the things around you are affecting you, how they make you feel. Walk away from anything that is too heavy to hold. Walk away from anything that has caused for you to walk away from yourself for too long. Give yourself permission to do that. There's courage in that. And within that same concept, you don't have to apologize for what your healing looks like. You don't have to apologize for the way you are just learning how to carry the things you did not necessarily ask to hold in life. You don't have to apologize for the way the world weathered you, for the things you are trying to understand, for the things you are just trying to make sense of along your journey. The truth is we all enter into this life blindly with little direction, and none of us come out of it unscathed. We have all dealt with things that have changed us, with things that have stuck. We all have interior worlds filled with rooms we cannot bear to look into at times, with memory that hurts to touch. We are all healing from things we do not speak about. We are all healing from things we may not understand, things that feel unfair and haunted and gritty within our bones. We are all healing, and there is no right or wrong way to approach that journey, because healing is not linear. It does not exist within a structured or sensible timeline or reality. You will take 10 steps forward and 12 steps back. You will feel like you have moved on, and then you will hear a certain song, or you will realize that you have forgotten what your mother's voice sounded like, or you will see something that flashes nostalgia into your chest, and you will realize that the wound is still there, that it is still tender, and that is okay. It is okay. You do not have to apologize for your healing. You do not have to rush your healing. You do not have to vilify yourself for being affected by something you thought you had moved on from. You do not have to push yourself to cut the pain from the bone or to rush it out the door. Instead, you have to sit with it. You have to call it by its name. You have to let it flow through you. You have to experience it and welcome that experience. You have to work to turn the losses into lessons, and you have to be kinder to yourself within that process, because it does not happen overnight. You are not always going to be a shining example of the person you want to be. You are not always going to be light-filled and soft. You are a human being learning how to balance what is both light and so dark within yourself. You are a human being learning how to navigate what is gentle and what bears its teeth within you. You are a human being, a living, breathing human person who is going to make mistakes, who is going to experience things that they did not deserve, who is fighting internal battles that no one else sees. You do not have to apologize for that. Just be kinder to yourself. Give yourself the empathy you so deeply give to others. Whew. Okay. That's what I have for you this week, and I really, really hope that the words resonated and that they kind of help you to take ownership of who you are, and to embrace who you are and what you're dealing with and what your journey looks like and what your mind looks like and what your heart looks like and what your love looks like. I just hope that these words inspired you to stop apologizing for taking up space as you are. You are trying your best and you are learning every single day. And I say it time and time again, but you have to be gentle with yourselves. You have to be kinder to yourselves within that. And on that note, thank you so much for listening today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the constant support. It means the absolute world to me. And I can't wait to bring you another episode next week. So until then, know that you are loved and stay safe out there.